if you want Harry Potter with some spice and some more dragons. I'm just saying, it's a little creepy of a timing. It's so amazing. Hello, and welcome or welcome back. My name is Becca, so if you don't know me, now you do. I am going to film this video where I can hardly move my shoulders. I kinked something in my neck. Sorry, also, if you hear little tippy-tappy toes or somebody's collar. Scout has no, I was at Aubin. Aubin has no boundaries when he's wearing his collar. Scout has no boundaries. So he just owns the house. He does what he wants here. If you see me moving stiffly, it's because I am stiff. I am. I read 5 books in the month of October. I read 5 in like 2/3 of a book, but because that book got carried over to November, that will be in November's wrap up. So, but also if you ever want to see my reviews in real time, I post them on TikTok and Instagram, mainly TikTok, maybe TikTok. But if you want to see my reviews in real time and the individual ones, they're on TikTok. They're there for you, babe. Just waiting for you to click that button like a boop, like boop, just like that. As always, any books that I discuss are linked in my link tree, which is going to be put in the description down below. So any books that I talk about, you will be able to have access to them. They're usually either in my like monthly wrap-up reviewed recs. You can find them kind of anywhere. And then one of the books I'm going to talk about today is from an indie author. And so that has its very own place of honor because gotta support those indie authors. You know what I'm saying? I'm still drinking coffee in my hardly can move neck. So we're struggling today. The hurt is real, but you know what? It's getting into November, so I gotta do a wrap-up. Gotta wrap this shit up. Should have made that Irish. First book that I read this month is a part of a series. If you haven't read the series yet, you need to read the first one, then you can read the second one. Kind of like how a series works. Anywho, it's Iron Flame. Oh, fuck. It's Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the second book in I think it's called the Empyrean series. So it's the second book in the Empyrean series, which is the second book to Fourth Wing, which if you've been paying attention at all, I was behind on that because I got scared about the hippity hype, but now I've read it and now it's my whole personality. Aubin is actually currently reading Iron Flame, and fun fact, I filmed myself reading this. There's going to be a reading vlog coming up after this video. So this video will come out. The next one you can be expecting is this reading vlog. I wanted to vlog it because everyone had so much beef with this book. And I really, to be honest, to this day, don't know why. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is a chunker. It is a bit of a bigger book. And I flew through it. It was so good. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because obviously it's the second in a series. However, I will say it does take place world building more outside of the Dragon Rider school. So that's really neat to see. And also it just really sets us up well for book 3, which is Onyx Storm, which is coming out in January. Don't you worry. I have it on pre-order, baby. But this one is just, it's funny. This series reminds me of Harry Potter a lot because like going to a school and learning all this stuff. And then this is like kind of like when they find out like Voldemort's still real. I mean, there's not a character like that in this, but it's like, this series kind of reminds me of Harry Potter. So if you like that and then you like a little spice, if you want Harry Potter with some spice and some more dragons, this is a good series. My neck is killing me. Holy shit. Burn it down. Burn it down. It is a lot more dragon heavy and spice light. So I would say there's a couple of spicy scenes, but it's mainly about the dragons, which to be honest is why I'm here anyway. 5 stars, blew through it, such a good time. So many jaw-dropping moments. I cried, like you'll see in the vlog. And also the vlog is a note, will have spoilers because I'm reading it with you, whereas this is spoiler free. But it's so good. It's so worth it. I feel like just as much as me saying the hype for Fourth Wing deterred me from reading it. I feel like people saying that this wasn't good can deter people from reading it in the same way. It's so good. I don't know what people were talking about. Man, my heart is just so much in Dragonland right now. I just can't even tell you. So 5 stars, started off the month with this one and loved it. The Putnams from Salem by Greg Houle. This was a really cool book to receive. I got it. It's an independent author. Greg Houle is an independent author. He has a podcast on the Salem witch trials. Something that is really neat that he includes in the author note at the beginning of this book is that he's actually a descendant of Thomas and Anne Putnam, who were 2 of the biggest catalysts for the Salem witch trials happening. So he has that familial connection, which is really cool. I went to Salem in September with my sister. If you're ever thinking of going to Salem, Massachusetts, and you're like, it'd be really fun to go around Halloween. No, go in September. Be a pro and go in September. Everyone was really friendly and fresh because like they were anticipating October, but it hadn't happened yet. It wasn't too crowded. I honestly think, like, I have driven through Salem in October before, but not stopped there. And it was absolute madness and honest to God, not worth it. So go in September because that's when it's actually a good time to go. Anyhow, this follows Anne and Thomas Putnam. Thomas is the father, Anne is the daughter. It is told in dual POV, and it follows pretty much just what happens with the Salem witch trials and what are the events that lead up to it, what happens during and what happens after a little bit. There's like a chapter. It's like the epilogue is about what happens after. I do wish there was more that happened after. I think I rated this on Goodreads a 4. I think in reality it's probably a 3, maybe a 3.5. I didn't, the biggest thing for me when I was coming back from Salem is I saw a lot of facts, but I wanted to see like the humanity, and I wanted to see like what their conversations would be like, what they would live like what led up to this happening. And I really feel like there wasn't as much of that there. So I was really looking for something like this. So this was super exciting for me to get, and I'm really appreciative of anything that's sent to me. But I think that the biggest thing in this book was that I was being told the story a lot and I wanted to be shown it. The bits that were missing were the atmosphere. What were they eating? What did their home look like? What was the feeling that they had? It was halfway there where it gave us a lot of the conversations and this is how this could happen. And there was a twist at the end that I was not expecting. I should have been, but I was not. And so the twist at the end is what gave this like 3.5 to be in that range, because the ending was really good. And so I still enjoyed it, and it did give me some connective tissue for information that I had learned in September, but I missed some atmosphere. Like, I think that this book really would have sung if it had atmosphere, you know? Then we have The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I picked this book up for a few reasons. I've wanted to read this for a long time, so that was Exhibit A. Then I also was like, oh, I need 5 more books for Book of the Month to be able to get the hat, aka the crown of readers. I needed 5 more books. I was like, perfect, I'll read this one. I read it, and then I go to rate it in the app. Got it before September, babes. Doesn't count. Read that fine print, you know? So I picked this up for that reason, but it was spooky season and it's a mystery and I wanted to read as many of those as possible. And this has been on my list for a long time. So it was neither here nor there. It just was a little like, oh, fuck. It was just a little like, oh, maybe not for the crown. Anyway, so The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This is my first Simone St. James. She has, I think, the Sundown Motel. I don't think it's a hotel. I think it's a motel. I think you drive up. This is also not driving. This is walking. You drive up. I think it's Sundown Motel. Anyway, I'd wanted to read Simone St. James, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun read. Basically, what happens is there's this woman who has a website called The Book of Cold Cases. See, don't be fooled like me. I was like, there's a Book of Cold Cases and they're going to go and solve a bunch of them. They don't. There's one website and it's called The Book of Cold Cases. And basically there was a murder that happened in the town that this woman lives in a long time ago. And she goes and becomes friends with one of the people in this family that was at the epicenter of this event, of this goings on. It was told within multiple POVs. It was told within different timelines. It was really good. It's not that long, as mysteries, I believe, shouldn't be. I think I ended up rating this a 3.5 or 3.75. Yeah, I think I rated this a 3.75. Might have been a 4 on Goodreads. Not sure. But the thing I thought was missing was there's an element in this book that is brought up in the beginning and also brought up later, but should have been throughout. Like, they brought it up and it made it really creepy, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And then they just kind of dropped that element, and I was like, oh, we're like not doing that anymore. Got it. And if that had kept up through the whole book, it could have been 4 or 5 stars. Like, if that element had been the main thing, but it was really like an appetizer, and I wanted it as the entree. You know, it's like when you order an appetizer and you're like, should have just gotten 2 plates of this for my entree, and instead you're eating chicken, you know? So like, that was a bit missing for me, but it was really good. It was atmospheric. I enjoyed it. I read through it really quickly. I just wish that element had stayed. Also, fun fact, when I was reading this book, there at the very beginning, there's a part in the book that basically like the house has its mind of its own, right? Like the house is creepy and, you know, it's a little bit like not haunted per se, but like there's creepy things with the house. At that moment, the place I've lived for almost a decade, and this has never happened, there decided to be a critter in the walls. And I'm reading this book and you just hear like scratching sounds on the ceiling. And I was like, fuck no. As soon as I'm reading a book about a creepy house that does shit by itself, my house decides to just have a critter in there. Immediately called my landlord and was like, listen, something's happening, and either you're like getting this creature out or I'm getting holy water.
The power of Christ compels you.
Like, there's really no in between. Or like, I'm leaving. Like, if you don't, I'm gone. Because is it haunted? Is it an animal? Who knows? And then also, like, he never found the animal, but it's just stopped ever since I stopped reading this book. I'm just saying, it's a little creepy of a timing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that went with this book. And then the, like, creepiest parts kind of dropped off, and I was like, huh. Okay. It was still good. Still worth reading if you like mysteries and you like quick mysteries, but it's not a huge one up there where I'm like, if you don't like mysteries, you should read this one. I think really just a mystery aficionado would enjoy. A book that Aubin and I listened to this month was The Last One Left by Riley Sager. I'm also going to say the only one left by Riley Sager because I cannot remember which one that it is. So it's one of the two. But we listened to it through the Libby app. And it's basically a story about this woman who is an in-home caretaker. And she goes to take care of, it's actually kind of similar to Book of Cold Cases. Not in the sense that she goes to take care of her. But basically, there's an at-home caretaker. And she goes and has to like live in order to take care of her patient with one of the family members from a crime and murder that happened many, many, many years ago in her town. It's very famous. They have like the school kids all have like a little rhyme about it, like the Lizzie Borden rhyme. So she goes and takes care of this person, and she basically like uncovers what's going on, what happened that night, what the truth is. And it was good. It was really interesting. It definitely reminded us a lot of Klune. And it's a very good, like, whodunit. Like, was it the maid in the billiards room? Or was it the caretaker in the dining room? Like, it was so good. And it kept us guessing the whole time. The only other Riley Sager that I've read is The House Across the Lake, which, if you haven't read that book, it was a what the fuck type of book, you know? But this one, we both really enjoyed it, and I think we both gave it 4 stars. It was creepy. It kept you guessing till the end. Aubin typically like figures stuff out along the way, and he didn't figure this one out. There's twists, there's turns. It was fun because we could be like, we kept stopping being like, do you think it's this person? Well, that changes things. Oh, well, is that this thing? And so it was really fun, and it was really nice to listen to because they have 2 different narrators. It's told from the perspective of the caretaker and as the patient and of the patient. So there's 2 different POVs and therefore 2 narrators, and that was really enjoyable to listen to. I like when there's 2 different people reading the POVs. So that was really enjoyable and perfect for October with the booby season. Then I gave 5 stars to this next book, which will be a surprise to no one, but it's House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. It's my very first TJ Klune, and I absolutely loved it. It was a warm hug. It was tea for your soul. Basically, there's a caseworker that works for the government. He goes and checks out group homes for kids and makes sure that all the kids are being taken care of and fed and educated and clothed, et cetera, et cetera. And he gets put on a classified mission or a classified case to this secret island where there's a bunch of kids there. And clearly there's a hidden agenda that the government has, when don't they? And he goes in and his job is to like go and observe and figure out what's going on in this house. And really he ends up being like, well, why is there such a concern over these kids in particular? It's LGBTQ representation, which I always love to see in novels. It has a romance in it, but that is not the main story. It is a love story, but it's familial. It's found family. It's such a lovely thing to read. And as I'm filming this, it's election day. I don't yet know what the results are. But sometimes you just need a book that's just lovely and nice and warm and hopeful and full of love. And if you're looking for a book like that, this is the book for you. The sequel just came out, so you can go from one into the other. I honestly didn't even know there was a sequel. I thought this was a standalone until I saw that the sequel came out. And so that's cool, but I'm also like, this story could have ended here, and it's just so neatly wrapped up in a bow. I'm really excited to read TJ Klune's other stuff. I have Under the Whispering Door, and plus, I know he has his whole like Wolf Song series, so there's plenty of TJ Klune to read, but I'm glad this is my intro to him because many, many people have said that this is his like best work. So absolutely 5 stars. Perfect read for November if you're looking for books that are like family and gratitude and love. This one's perfect for that. It's perfect for that. Other things in October we've been loving watching Shrinking. That came back, and so we've been slowly and steadily watching that. Love that. I finished watching Severance, which I know is the second season's coming out next year, and people had to wait 2 years, and I don't, because I was sneaky about it. Kind of like with Iron Flame. I'm like, nah, I don't have to wait that long. It's just January. But it ended up being really good. It took me about 4 times to get through the first episode, but we finally did it. But I trusted the process, and I trusted Aubin because he had seen it before. So we finished that up, and that was really good. We saw Here recently, the movie with Tom Hanks, and while the premise is really cool and it's a really cool way to tell a story, and it's actually based on a book, it just felt a little bit like a play, which was really an interesting thing. And the story itself, it seemed to focus more on the cinematic experience than it did the story. And I would always take story over cinematic, which is really funny because I work in film. But still, like, the story is always, like, if you have the story, you can forgive a lot of other things, you know? Anyway, this year has been interesting and hard for a lot of people, including me. And so I think it's going into November, what I'm really focused on is just being grateful each day for what we do have and just for all of the amazing books. I think like I keep feeling like I keep finishing books that are so good, feeling like I'm going to get a hangover, but then I start reading the next book and I'm like, oh, this one's really lovely too. It's just having so many stories like right at our fingertips is just, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. Anyway, I'm not going to get too like flamboyant here because I can hardly move with my neck, but I love you. You're great. I want to know what you read this month. What was your favorite book that you read this month? Because although I have a never-ending TBR, I also get a lot of FOMO. So what is your favorite book that you read in October? And please subscribe. I'd love it. If you love me, I love you. We're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from me and you. Won't you say you love me too? Ooh, Barney Kid for life. Anyway, subscribe for good vibes. For good vibes. For good vibes. Oh, even that just hurt my neck. Anyway, I will see you at the next one. And until then, keep it cool. keep it cool. How do I end this? Okay, I love you. Bye.